Hi everyone. I wanted to come on and talk about something that happened to me last week. And I'll preface it by sharing a little bit about my experience so far post-competition. It's been about a year now since I've competed last in my last bikini competition. And I've always wanted to be someone that would prioritize my health and try to reverse as well as I could so that I could, get my hormones back to a good place while also preventing a lot of fat gain. Folks who know me know that I like to reverse slowly and whatnot. And I wanted to share, first of all, that's a tough process. A lot of competitors, like if you compete or if you know someone that competes, a lot of competitors will say that the reverse diet process is even harder than competition prep in many ways because the goal of the stage is no longer there. And it's common for people to battle those feelings of like, okay, I can eat the donut, so why not? I'll do it. And then it's easy to want to binge. There's a lot of hormonal factors going on there, a lot of neurological factors going on there that cause people to want to continuously eat, right? And that's something I can talk about another day. But it's really easy to get into this cycle of like overeating, feeling guilty about it, and then feeling guilty that you felt guilty. So then, you feel like, okay, well, I worked hard enough. I want to enjoy this period now, right? But then you also don't want to put on the weight you just lost, even when you know that it's the healthy thing to do. So essentially, it's a big mind fuck, honestly. Excuse my French. It can be really difficult mentally. So just sharing a little bit about what that's gone like for me in the past, every reverse has looked different. But I've noticed that since I earned my pro card, that seemed to add a lot of pressure. And it wasn't pressure that was placed on me by other people. It was purely pressure that I placed on myself to maintain a certain image, right? Or, just make sure that I'm doing my part to stay competitive and that I bring the best version of myself that I can. And sometimes that pressure leads to some feelings of insecurity, especially around that weight gain. Well, I've figured out that for myself this past year, particularly in the fall, I realized like because I'm taking an extended off season, extended meaning years off of competing, which is what I need for my body and my health. It also means that I don't really need to weigh myself every day. I got to the point where I realized that weighing myself was determining my mood for the day. It was determining my self-worth. It was determining kind of how I viewed myself. And it put even more pressure on me to feel like I needed to live up to this ideal, right? And so honestly, due to just like necessity, when we went to our trip to Costa Rica in the fall, where I didn't have access to a scale and I literally didn't have phone service, so I couldn't track my food, I stopped weighing myself at that point, and it was very freeing for me. And I realized that I started to develop, honestly, a fear around weighing myself. I was afraid of what the number would say. I was afraid of how it would impact my mood for the rest of the day or even the week, especially because I felt like I was doing everything right. I was actually very meticulous about my reverse, and I was hitting my macros almost precisely to the point of obsession, honestly. I will say that I feel like I developed some disordered eating patterns and behaviors that were good in intention, but had more of an impact than I thought it would. And so long story short, it was really difficult for me. And I started to kind of develop a fear of the scale and when I stopped weighing myself, that was a very freeing moment because I started to realize like, hey, this number doesn't necessarily mean that much. There's a lot of reasons, just like I tell my clients all the time. There's a lot of things that go into your weight. And I know there's a lot of biological factors that are going on in my body that impact my weight gain. And also, I need to gain weight to make sure that my hormones are balancing back out. Like that's a very real thing and it's very important. Doesn't make it any easier to do it, right? So after several months of not weighing myself and noticing like my body change and fluctuate, like I'm generally okay with it. Like I'll look in the mirror, feel pretty good. Sometimes I'll look at photos and be like, oh, this is not where I thought I would be, or where I wish I could be, or where I have been before. But for the most part, feeling pretty good and still maintaining my heavy lifting schedule and doing pretty well tracking my macros. But this past week, I had a mandatory health exam to renew my life insurance policy because #adulting. I have to renew it. But if you're familiar with the life insurance process, you have to do a health exam, which requires you to weigh in. Now, as soon as I scheduled this appointment, I was like, okay, I have to face this again. It's been a while. And I realized like that fear is still in me, despite all the work I've been doing internally to feel okay about it. And I knew it was coming, so I worked from home that day and made sure to carve out some time for myself in the morning to tell myself, to walk myself through a process to get myself in the right headspace and in order to receive that information. And I knew that I wanted to weigh myself prior to the nurse coming over because I wanted to have my moment privately before feeling like I was in shock, right? I knew the number was going to be higher than I probably wanted it to be or what it would have been the last time I weighed in. So I gave myself some space for that. And I wanted to share what that process was like because I had a major breakthrough. I have learned so much in the past few months, and I have been doing a lot of internal work. Like I mentioned, I did a 6-week course with my friend Stephanie Domrose called Choose Your Story. And in that course, I learned a lot of tools, like how to craft affirmations for myself that are based in truth, that are not lies I'm just telling myself and hoping to believe. I've also been connecting a little bit more strongly with my faith than I have in a long time, and that's been helpful. And we've done a few other professional development kinds of things where we've been focusing a lot on our personal growth. And so here are the things I did. One, I said some affirmations. I was like, okay, I am strong. I am beautiful. I am healthy. I'm capable, right? I'm still a pro, even when I have more body fat on my body. I'm still a positive role model, and I like who I am. I also reminded myself that the number on the scale is just one piece of data that measures progress, and I tried to think of all the signs that have been telling me that I'm getting stronger, my sleep is getting better, my mood has balanced back out. I'm realizing that my hormones are balancing back out. I'm no longer frickin' freezing all the time. I'm no longer hangry all the time. Like, there's a lot of shit you go through during prep that I'm not dealing with now, and that's wonderful, right? It was great to have abs, but the symptoms of being that lean were not always ideal. I also prayed about it. Honestly, I was like, I'm telling myself these affirmations, but I'm struggling to believe what I'm even saying. I don't know. Have you ever had that moment? I don't know. it's difficult for me sometimes. But then I came to a realization. I thought about my original why, like why I got into fitness in the first place. Powerlifting, competing in bodybuilding. When I did like a 5K, 10K, and Warrior Dash, like all those things was because I was not in a healthy place before. And I wanted to challenge myself and push myself and teach myself that I was capable of more than I thought. And honestly, when I came out of this last prep, the number one goal I had was to find balance. And for me, balance looked like a healthy, active lifestyle with a little wiggle room. Time for some, more intentionality in my social life, my spiritual life. Still choosing foods that fuel my body and make me feel good, and paying attention to how it's making me feel versus like, does it fit my macros completely? There are some foods that fit, but don't always feel that great to me. So, really trying to pay attention to that. Spending more time, with my relationships, with my cat, and nourishing myself in a lot of ways, right? Balance is what I was looking for, balance and health. And I was like, I was looking in the mirror and I finally realized like what I'm looking at right now, this is balance. This is health. Whatever this number is, it is an indicator to me, like because I'm feeling great right now about where I'm at, it's an indicator that this is what health looks like. This is what balance looks like. This is what strength looks like. And for the first time, I believed the affirmation, and I knew at that point I was ready to step on the scale, and I did. And I was right. The number was a little higher than the last time. And I didn't care. I realized that I can be healthy and strong and balanced at that weight, and I can feel good about myself and know that I'm worth a lot more than my physique and what the scale says. And I stepped off and I literally just started tearing up tears of joy for the first time, and I can't even tell you how long. And it was so powerful, and it helped me just totally realize like I have been spending so much emotional and mental energy focusing on the things that I don't want to happen or the things that I'm afraid of, right? Without even acknowledging all of the progress I've made. Sure, I went to extremes. I started in a really unhealthy place, went to a really far extreme to achieve a physique goal, and honestly reached a different kind of unhealthy place in some ways. And then, I truly feel like I needed to go through those experiences in order to find that midpoint, that point where I can live at my leanest livable weight, where I can be happy, where I can be social, where I can fit in a beer if I want to, maybe not 6 like I did last weekend, which was a bit much. That was not what balance looks like, people. Trying to practice some mindfulness there. But yeah, I just feel so much better, and it totally changed my perspective on the whole week. I've been waking up in a lot more positive moods, a lot more grateful, and appreciative of this journey and what it's taught me. And also recognizing that my emotions on this topic can fluctuate day by day, right? Some days I'm feeling really strong and really good, and some days are a lot harder. And some days I forget because I've talked to myself in these negative ways for years. And this is a lot of social conditioning I have to unlearn and practice. So I share this because it's exciting, but it's also a reminder to hold myself accountable, to keep reminding myself of these affirmations, and to keep focusing on where I want to go versus where I don't want to be, if that makes sense. So I know this is a long video, so thanks for sticking it out. I think I'm at about 15 minutes, so I'll shut myself off here. But I just wanted to share that experience with folks who may also be struggling with similar things.